Hey, everybody. Welcome to another Bar Cart Co-op show. Alan, it seems like, last week we did one of these things?
Yeah, it's a rarity that they happen this quickly.
I know. It's awesome. We're on a roll. What are we going to do next week? Before we get into next week, we've got a great show for you tonight. We have Kris Koenig.
Distiller.
What's that?
Next week, first female master distiller.
This week we have with us a wonderful guest, one of my favorite people in the industry, Mr. Kris Koenig, who is the head beaver at Golden Beaver Distillery. Alan, you see how I just kind of went right over that? Right over that. Yeah,
it happens in this industry.
It does, doesn't it? But hey, you may be thinking, okay, what's a Golden Beaver? Well, we'll tell you about that in a minute. But first of all, we're going to tell you a little bit about Bar Cart Co-op. And the funny thing is I think we got every show represented here today. All right, so Alan, since you've got 14 different shows that you do, why don't you tell everybody a little bit about what your shows are and what they mean?
Sure. Yeah, you can check out the One Piece at a Time Distilling Institute on YouTube, which is where I take questions mostly from home distillers, but sometimes professional distillers, and try to answer them on process or get answers for them and learn a lot about distilling myself in that process as well. But definitely catered more to home distillers than anybody else and trying to encourage them to get into the legal industry. Secondarily is both legal and...
Yeah. Huh? You cut out there for just a second.
Oh, I cut out. Okay. Yeah. Secondarily is Distillers Talk with myself and Christy Atkinson, where we interview distillers from all over the world, both legal and illicit, and sort of introduce you to their protocols and their ideas and their products. And then the third one is more of the paranormal / supernatural based stuff that we do, called If You Have Ghosts, You Have Everything, which I often do with my wife, Kimberly. And we often tackle haunted distillery stories on there, but there are certainly other stories as well. So,
yeah. Good. Any new shows in the works?
I am 5 minutes away at any point in time from just burning down the entire archive of everything I've ever done. Walking away.
That sounds very, very stable. Very stable.
Gonna go work for Kris.
Hey, you're welcome, man.
You can be the assistant head beaver, I guess. Mike and Pat, you guys want to tell us about My Whiskey Den?
Go, Pat.
Sure. My Whiskey Den is a show where we review craft whiskey primarily. Not to say that's the only thing that we do, but it is what we focus on. And with our show and Evening With, we like to focus on mostly craft distilleries or other people in the industry to kind of help pull you back and pull you into a little bit deeper into the game of whiskey. Primarily with craft distilleries, because we believe that it do not get their due, and a lot of the innovation does happen there. And that's why we're happy to have Kris, who is our reigning craft distillery of the year from our craft whiskey awards last year. So we are happy to have you back here with us tonight.
Well, thank you for that honor. It's awesome.
Yeah, well deserved.
It was a hell of a lineup.
Yeah.
It was. My show that I do with Drew Crawley is called Bourbon Turntable. We talk about whiskey. We talk about music. We're the show that blends the love of whiskey with the love of music. And we have shows every Wednesday. Mike does this much better than I do, but we have shows every Wednesday. Drop on YouTube or on your favorite podcast platform. This week, our show is a look back at the first half of 2023. We talk about some of our favorite whiskeys, some of our favorite music and albums and concerts, and even talk about some of our favorite shows of our own. So not to be too narcissistic and self-serving, but it is what it is. But without any more garbage here at the beginning, we want to welcome Kris back to Bar Cart Co-op. Hey, Kris, how are you, buddy?
Good. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
So you've got some big things going on at Golden Beaver, and we're going to get into that in a little bit, and we're going to talk about some of these whiskeys that you've just released. But before we do that, tell everybody a little bit about your history and how you got into distilling and how Golden Beaver came to be.
Well, my background over the past, let's say, 25 years was producing independent documentaries for broadcast on PBS as science specials. And I did that work with a wonderful woman named Anita, who unfortunately in 2014 succumbed to breast cancer. And when she passed, my desire to make films without her just wasn't there. I just didn't want to continue to do what I was doing, and took up a little home distilling, and kind of via the distiller's talk methods, going over the internet, grabbing all the information I can, and see if I could not blow myself up in the garage. And my brother happened to be in town from Vietnam, where he lives, and brought. I had a small, 1 liter oak cask full of some bourbon I had made, and it had been aging for about a year, and I poured it out for him, and he took a taste of it, and he goes, "This shit's really good when we're going into business." And that was the genesis of Golden Beaver, was in that garage and in that moment. The name, however, came a little down the line from that. We were, my wife and I were down or over in Colorado in our cabin, and we drive through a small town called Sarasota, Wyoming, to get to Interstate 80 from our cabin. And we were coming out of the cabin early in the morning, and we're going through town, and they have a liquor store called Beaver Liquors. And I said to my wife, just casually, I said, Beaver Liquor with LLKKER would be an awesome moonshine name. And she turned to me at that moment and started a 4-hour, very heated discussion about what we would be naming our new distillery. And it was not going to be anything with Beaver Liquor. And this argument honestly took place, it's an hour up to Interstate 80, and there's another 3 hours to Rock Springs, and it was going pretty heated back and forth. And we finally got to one point in the discussion that my wife had worked at a museum up here in the Paradise before the city burned down during the fire. In the museum, there was information on the Golden Beaver, and the Golden Beaver was a subspecies of the North American beaver that reigned from basically the Bay Area Delta, so Sacramento north, up through the 2 rivers of Sacramento and the Feather, and then all the way up to the border of Oregon. And these beavers have a very cool, actually I have a pelt I'll bring out. If you guys got a break, I'm going to grab it. Very cool pelt, very gold-like. And there's about 3 million of them managing the water between the 2 rivers. And so if you can imagine, if you've ever been up in Northern California, everything where we now have orchards and we have rice fields and all that, they're all basically beaver ponds and swamp all the way up and down because there was no flood control on the river except for the beavers. So Jedediah Smith came up in about 1820, maybe 21, walked up through here, noted all the beaver, continued his walk up to Oregon, and stayed at the Hudson Bay camp on the Columbia. And over dinner, told the tale of all the beaver that were in California. Within the next year, Hudson Bay Company sent down these brigades of trappers, 200 at a time. And they basically, from that period up until about 1860, just about the time Civil War started, they basically stripped California of all its fur-bearing animals. And they did that not only for the furs for the markets in Europe, but to keep the U.S. out of the fur trade. And, we hear about the Rocky Mountains and the fur trade there, but California was much more, productive because of the ease of the terrain and everything else. So that's how we came up with the Golden Beaver. So we hit Rock Springs, and we finally got done arguing at each other. And so we decided that we would call our distillery Golden Beaver, and in honor of the Golden Beaver. And we now actually spend 1% of our gross every year to a foundation called the Water Institute. And their job is to help change the laws here in California about managing beavers, which they've just successfully done over the last 2 years. When we started funding them, you could shoot a beaver, but you couldn't move a beaver off your property. Now you can get a hold of the Department of Fish and Wildlife. They'll come in, they'll help you relocate the beaver. We're trying to relocate beaver up into the foothills here to reestablish wetlands that would help stop some of these outrageous wildland fires that we have, because they put back in the natural, defenses that we used to have before the beavers were wiped out. And so the beavers are doing pretty good, and we're glad to support them and making it happen for them.
Well, we're thankful that you called it Golden Beaver and not something like Jebediah's Folly or some bullshit like that. Thank you.
Yeah, no. But, you just never know. History is really tough. Oh, there's our beaver liquor right there.
Yeah, that's probably my favorite bottle in all of spirits. I think it's fantastic.
Appreciate it. Yeah, we got a platinum from Fred Minnick on that as well as the taste. So I'll take both.
Great.
Since that was our first product ever put out in the marketplace, I'll take it. So.
Yeah.
But that's how the Golden Beaver came about.
Yeah.
And then, my wife and I never, we joked about the beaver liquor. We understood that innuendo, but it wasn't until we had our grand opening here, and my wife is, very beautiful and she's blonde, and somebody walked in and goes, "Oh, she's the Golden Beaver." We never got figured that out. So now we've had to adjust to that as well.
Yeah, that'll happen.
Yeah. So as we say, it's an adult beverage. You should have fun with it. It shouldn't be so serious. We're not gentry here. We're not going to walk around in our riding boots and pour a dram. We're going to pour you a shot, or we're going to make you. Well,
that's one of the reasons why I've always really respected you in particular, Kris, is because you're not getting all uppity about anything with the liquor industry, right? You're doing really well in it, but you've always been super cool as far as both on the legal side, but you're also one of those very few guys that kind of can walk with some of the moonshiners too. So and the home distillers, which I think is really unique and a really cool thing, and shows a lot of reverence for where you came from with learning. So
well, we try to help where we can. We get a few people coming in now and then and try to pass on the sage wisdom he passed on to me. So it continues to spread.
Awesome.
Well, I think anyone who doesn't, go ahead. I say people who don't have a sense of humor, they also shouldn't look at like your Kentucky Derby posts for the events and stuff that you had there. It was like, look, this is all about having fun. And it was, at first I was like, are you kidding me? It was like, good for him.
We had a great day. We had a lot of traffic came through. We've had more people talk about it that weren't there, that wish that they were there. So next year we're going to have to expand the bar a little bit to make room for the people coming in. But it was a good time.
Yeah.
So and we totally ripped the vibrator races we ripped off from Key West. So I mean they've been around for a while, but we had a good time. We had a joke, you can rent a steed from us, you can rent a pony from us, or you can bring your own steed. And we had several women bring their own, and I was quite shocked by it. We're ready to go.
Some ringers. Yeah.
So it worked out really well.
That one's got some batteries.
Yeah. As long as there's no health inspector making a drop-in visit, you're probably all right.
Actually,
Look at that.
we were prepared for that. If you brought your own, we sterilized it. We put some heads on it. We wiped it down. We were prepared for anybody to show up.
You got to lick it before you stick it. I mean,
whoa. But you got to have fun with it. We try to have fun with our spirits.
Yeah.
And it's too uptight, man. A lot of these companies are way too, too wound.
Mm-hmm.
It's just spirits.
Yeah.
You're not inventing something that's going to change the world. They'll change somebody's life, or they'll have a good time that evening, or they'll make a great memory. But it's not rocket science.
1,000,000%.
Yeah.
I agree.
So one of the whiskeys that we'll be talking about and trying tonight is, let me pull it up like this. Let me see it get better that way, or maybe this way. The Chico Creek Straight Rye Whiskey. So
I'm excited about this.
Tell us about this one and why it's what makes it special right now.
Well, what makes it special, it's the only barrel of rye whiskey we ever did. And I say did because we had to make a decision back in 2001 what we were going to be. And Alan can talk to this a little bit. I mean, you could skew yourself to death and have every type of spirit possible, or you can specialize. And bourbon and rye, everybody's doing it. We did this mash. My son and I did it together. That's a very special mash because of that. We did a 88-12 mash bill, and we went through the process and dealt with the foaming and everything that everybody says is a problem in making rye. And we had I got some good advice from several other distillers, over at Liberty Pole over in Pennsylvania. Those folks have helped out a lot. Pat Heist, we talked a little bit to Pat about the management of the rye. And then, of course, our buddy who just disappeared that had his input on it as well. And but we made this barrel of rye and put it away. And then we just realized nowhere in our production schedule would we have room to do a rye again, because we were going to focus on the rice. And so that was all we made. Do I regret it now? I mean, obviously you guys will be the panel to tell me if it's good or not. But I do think that it's something we need to reconsider. We should probably do at least 2 weeks of rye moving forward, and maybe have a couple barrels set aside every year. Because we found it, I like it. It's pretty tasty. And but again, like bourbon, and Alden Stupid will tell you, everybody's doing it. Everybody's doing bourbon, everyone's doing rye. And that's why we made a decision of only doing rice. And
they are, Kris, but I think there's still a lot of room for rye, and I don't think everybody's doing rye well is the other part of
it. That's very true. I was gonna say there's a lot of things that we have a friend that likes some very aggressive rye. But I was gonna say there's been some that he's had, and he's honest said it's overly aggressive sometimes isn't always good. Right. And there's some that come out and attack you, and they can lose you right away. Yeah. If it's not hitting the right notes, or if even one is slightly off. I'll agree with that quite a bit, because there are quite a few ryes that I still have some issues with, but there's plenty out there that I find really unique. And just on the nose on this, it's very pleasant, very approachable. It has a really nice light layering of things, and it's a little dense, but not overly, because I was a little sick yesterday, so I'm coming off a little head cold, some other stuff here, but the finish, because I'm going to see what other people say about the nose, stuck around for a really long time, because I did have some while we were talking. Maybe.
I think too, real quick on the rye topic, the other thing that happens as well is that a lot of the people that are making rye that are also making bourbon, they're doing rye as an afterthought. They're not necessarily, not all of them, but a good majority of them are not necessarily passionate about rye. They're doing it because they have the equipment that they can do it, right? And they're focusing on a very specific subset of those more aggressive styles of rye, with the exception of a few places. Obviously, Leopold and I think Liberty Pole falls into that category as being on the positive side for sure. And the Steve Beam malted rye stuff that we had from Limestone Branch. But a vast majority of them only do it because they have the equipment.
Yeah. And I will tell you, this is California rye. And I don't know too many distillers are doing California rye.
For me on the nose on this, I don't know if you guys pick up on it or not, but so one thing that I don't typically like about like most of the 95.5 rye stuff that's out there is like how much of that medicinal, like Robitussin cherry thing. This doesn't have it. It has cherry cola though. It has a ton of cherry cola. There's also a cool thing that I picked up on this the first time I tasted it when it came in. So you guys have probably seen this a lot in wheat whiskeys or wheated bourbons, but when you taste the wheat or smell wheated bourbon, you get almost like that brand nose. This is the first time I picked up like a rye brand ever in a whiskey, which is really cool.
Interesting.
And this, if you already said it, I apologize for if I didn't hear it, but there's not rice malt or any trade. There's no rice used in this at all. Okay.
Rice malt. So this is a 8812 mash bill, and we did use some enzymes as well in the cook up, only because I didn't want the mess. And, so somebody will call me not pure because we use enzymes, but you clean up a mess once and you'll realize why you do enzymes. I mean,
from a yeast standpoint, do you use the same yeast for this as you do for your other spirits, or is this a different kind of yeast?
We're kind of stuck in with the firm solution yeast that we use, and and one of the reasons it's a high temp yeast because sometimes our mashes will as they ferment will bump up against 100 degrees. You need a yeast that can take at least 110 here. We do have ways to crash cool and cool them off, but operationally we prefer not to, so it's a little higher temp.
Yeah.
I love how soft. Oh, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say I'll let this sit out in the glass for a little while, and it does open up a lot as it sits, and there's some really nice citrus notes on there. I definitely see what you're saying with the cherry cola, but there's some nice citrus notes in there, and there's a little bit of floral in it. And just on the back end of the nose, there's like a little bit of those little cinnamon red hots.
Yep.
Just a touch of that.
There is a little bit of that.
I had that. I was trying to figure out if that was going to be my Fat Boy note or not.
Oh, okay. Well,
I had it on the palate, but not the nose until Kevin said it. And I'm like, okay.
It's called a hot barrel in California right there.
I was getting the same thing on the tail end of the finish, not the nose.
Yeah. My available glassware is not good for nosing, but for so those notes are not very good. But everything that everybody said on there, and then there's I was getting a little floral on the palate too when I really just let it sit, and it was it's the whole feel of it. It's I don't want to say soft. I think I'd say more deceptively soft. It's just very subtle, and then it just really sticks around. This is a very beautiful rye, Kris.
Yeah. It's like a floral, earthy cola that's just like rolling over my tongue right now.
That's what surprised me on the palate in particular. So I pick up on some of the floral on the nose, but it wasn't going more like the lavender direction. It was more almost jasmine flower, but very, very light. But on the entry, here's what got me. It's how soft the initial entry was, but it's full bodied. It has a crazy mouthfeel to it, which is awesome. And then you get to the mid palate, and then it just explodes. But it goes again more grains of paradise as opposed to black pepper. There's still sweetness there. There's a little bit of that floral characteristic, and at the back is where I got the cinnamon. And I was thinking exactly cinnamon, like the hot disc. But so think like a little bit of Kris. I'm sure you've experienced this before with distillations, like where people would use like just a little bit of cayenne pepper that comes off as cinnamon. I get just a little bit of that I really, really like a lot.
That's what I was going to say, is like a little bit of that earthy herbal cinnamon note. Like I said, when you're saying pepper, I was getting that light cayenne pepper burn on like the side of my tongue. Or it's just that sticking around with it. That is really well integrated for what's all going on in there at the age and everything. Because that's
Melanie,
sticking around quite a while and doing more flavor on the tongue. Sorry about
Melanie Robinson says it's a gentle rye. I like that.
Yeah.
There's almost like a you know the Lifesaver Cream Saver candies. I get a little bit of that on the palate, like the orange cream saver.
That's a good note.
I have a good friend here in Chico who is a little bit of an aficionado, has an incredible collection of bourbons and ryes, and he's been screaming orange ever since he was tasting the barrel. So, you know, it's very prominent there. You're looking for it.
Yeah. And so, as of right now, this is you had one barrel, and
We have one barrel. We've got I think we had 274 bottles that came out. That we had.
What were your cooperage details, barrel details, all that stuff?
So this is independent stave, char 3 with medium toast.
Very nice.
And we used, you know, it's a great barrel. We use it in obviously that same barrel in most of our spirits. I do have some char 1 I'm going to experiment with this for some things, mainly for the brandies, because I think the char is a little too heavy for the brandies. But I really do like the toast, and I love what Independent Stave is doing. They do good stuff. So.
And I might have missed it earlier, but what was the distillation protocol here too, Chris? Double pot or?
Oh yeah, everything's double pot still.
Yeah.
And so we strip it, and then Nils and I sat around, playing chicken on the head Scott.
It happens.
I think we might have had 2 or 3, of our spirit tanks kind of rotating there for a few minutes, making sure that we didn't blow the ball.
Right.
It's tough sometimes.
It is.
Nils, I'm still heads. I'm like, no, you got to have a little heads. There's got to be a little heads going in that barrel. We had an argument for that about 5 minutes, and then we finally said, okay, we're taking it from here.
Oh, you left the right amount, man, for sure. Okay. Absolutely.
And then we did, there's some tails in it. Not a lot. There's a little.
That's where a little bit of that floral's coming from. Like I get it a little bit on the finish. Yeah. So it's blending with the tannin, in particular the barrel, and it's coming around. It's just got a nice little aftertaste to it. That's honestly almost kind of along the lines of what Kevin was saying with the Lifesavers thing, but almost a little custardy on the finish to me. So
okay,
yeah, no,
I like it. I like it a lot.
So now we'll probably do some rye this fall. We'll, when the weather cools off a little bit, I'm not worried about the heat.
Right.
So.
Yeah, I think this is a different enough rye, and a gentle enough rye compared to a lot of what's out there that you'll find a pretty damn good market for this pretty easily. So
yeah. It's not entry, but it's very approachable. But for people who know more about it, the depth of character is intriguing, and the finish is enough to just. I haven't had any in a while, and it's still very prominent on my tongue. With, like you said, the kind of cola custard, a little bit of tannin note, and a little bit of burn on the side. Yeah. It has a very long finish compared to some of the stuff I've had recently.
And it has its own characteristic for sure. It's definitely not 95.5. It's definitely not 51. Right. So
right.
Jim Ho said it's a Pennsylvania rye. Is what he said. It's a little more.
Also in that category, yeah.
It's more of that style. So.
Yep.
I wanted to dip a little harder with the barley to get a little more of the the sweetness coming out of the barley that you totally don't get from a 95.5 type of rye.
Right.
It's just right, just in your face rye.
I wouldn't change anything on this. I whatever your protocols were, man, I would stick to that as close as what you can, because I think you've got something pretty damn unique there. So,
thank you.
Yeah, I would definitely agree with the comments about the Lifesavers, because with the finish, it reminds me of, because here's the Fat Boy note. If you've ever not chewed the lifesavers, but if you sucked on them, just that residual feel in your mouth afterwards,
Right.
where it's just there. Everything inside has been coated in your mouth with this. This flavor's just sitting there. It is really nice, and this is not knocking the 95.5 or anything like that, but it's like okay, you've wet your toes on this one. Now you should move up to something like this. Really nice variety.
So many jokes and inappropriate comments I just let go of, Mike, because I love you, buddy. Just letting it go.
Yeah. Okay.
Appreciate the feedback. What do you think of the proof? You guys like the 90, or you think it should go out 100?
490. That's beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, everyone's going to want to say, I want to try something barrel strength to see what it's at. But I mean, at 45, yeah, I mean,
it seems to be proofed right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's another one of those ones where a lot of times you want it higher, but once you have it higher or lower, you're like, they pick the right spot all by themselves.
Yeah.
I know Mike and I did that when we were first tasting some stuff, and it was like, well, who thought 43 was the sweet spot? After we played with it for like 2 days, we're like, nope, they nailed it right off the thing. Everything else was wrong.
And I think it's got more than enough character that it's if somebody were to unfortunately want to make a cocktail out of it, it's not going to get lost at all. So, and as a distiller, that's what you want, because people are going to eventually make cocktails out of it. You at least be able to taste the base spirit in it. So,
well, if you know how to make a Boulevardier, it makes a very good one. As long as you know how to manage your blend there. It makes a good one.
Working really well on a Sazerac, and honestly, maybe even a split like a smoked Negroni would be really freaking cool with that. So,
yeah.
Mike
will be able to test it when he comes out to the tasting room. We'll do a couple of cocktails with it.
I'll test the hell out of them.
Yeah. Now, pretty much any whiskey that I taste that I think, okay, this is very interesting, this is very unique, I always have the thought, well, I wonder what it's like straight out of the barrel, just for comparison purposes. Now, that doesn't mean that it's I'm thinking that it's wrong at 90 or 86 or 101 or whatever it is, but I think it's interesting to think, okay, this is a very unique whiskey all on its own. Because of that, I wonder what it's like straight out of the barrel.
What he meant to say was he wonders what it's like at 141.25.
Well, we did barrel entry on this at 110.
Okay.
Because of our climate here, and we had been, we assume what's going to happen is we're going to lose we have a high angel share here, obviously. And so I think when we came out, we were at 113 and a half on this barrel. And there was some discussion about just barreling it at barrel strength. But, I took it down steps for over a week, tested a bunch of different levels, and 90, it actually, to be honest, I think 86 is where it's sweet. It's perfect. Mm-hmm. But someone's going to put an ice cube on this, or someone's going to put it in with a cocktail, or they're going to add their water with their dropper,
right.
And I think they'll discover, like I said, 86 and a half, 87, super tasty in that zone. And but as we need to put it out there at there's the economy too. And Alan will tell you this: you count your bottles and you count your revenue, and we could have put it out at 113 and it'd been great, it'd been a hit. But it might not be a hit for a lot of new drinkers. It may be too strong. The whiskey geeks love it, but a lot of our customers who are just now getting into spirits have been way too much. So that's it's the plus and minuses of picking your proof.
Yeah.
So, is this only available at the distillery right now?
It's only available at the distillery. Or if you have somebody who lives here in California, we could ship to them until the end of the year. So it's we release it for Father's Day as a as a special release, special bottle. Again, it was done with my son who just came back from being deployed, so there was obviously some stress about his return, and so he came home, and so it was a little bit of a celebration.
Awesome.
Very good. Very cool. Okay. Well, we're going to leave the rye for a minute, and we're going to get into the Pacific Flyway whiskey in a minute as well. Before we do that, we want to make sure, well, we've got some folks here in the audience. We want to make you aware of a situation that I know it's very special to Alan. Justin and Tiffany both work at Spirits of French Lick. Alan, you want to share a little bit about what their story is?
Yeah, so I got to know Justin and Tiffany about maybe a year and a quarter ago, a little more than that, and became really good friends with both of them. Justin was a whiskey reviewer on TikTok and showed up at the distillery one day and took a tour, and then he never went home. So he started showing up every day, and every day they showed up, I just gave him stuff to do, and he never asked for a paycheck. So I was like, at some point, like 3 months in, I'm like, I guess you're hired. I can't like tell you to leave now. So, but we've become very good friends, and they're here at my house quite often, and very, very, very close friends. I've kind of, trying to teach Justin some of the art of distillation and have him in a position that one day he'll be able to take a job as a head distiller somewhere. Absolutely 100%. And Tiffany also works at the winery now too, as the general manager. So she was having some health problems that they were having a really hard time diagnosing. And they were starting to get pretty serious and build up over time. And they finally figured out that it was a breast implant illness, which I guess is a fairly new thing that is being recognized, but it's not being recognized completely by particularly health insurance companies. And so the procedure to take those out and fix everything, as it were, which would improve her health drastically, and is mandatory at this point in time for her, is very, very, very expensive. And they obviously, like most people in Southern Indiana, don't have the money to pay for that sort of procedure. So we're trying to do everything we can to raise some money for them and put some money towards this procedure, including having an event at the distillery. I don't have the graphic in front of me, Kevin, so I don't remember what the date is without looking at it. But
July 18th.
Yep, absolutely. So as you can see, we're going to have half pot bingo and barbecue, cornhole prizes, silent auction, trivia, raffles. I know with the auction, there's a number of unique and very cool bottles that are being donated for that. Not just obviously from Spirits of French Lick, but also other distilleries in Indiana, Kentucky, etc. And anybody that would like to contribute, just reach out to me or Justin Whaley through the normal channels, and we'd be glad to talk to you, and very appreciative of anything you can do. And I hope a lot of people show up, and we're able to really raise some substantial money to help Tiff out with this, because I know Tiff and Justin have had a very hard time with it.
Well, you can count us in for a couple of bottles of this rye coming your way.
That'd be awesome.
Oh, it's fantastic.
Yeah, that'd be great, man. That would help them out tremendously. So it's rough watching somebody go through that sort of thing and not knowing what they have wrong with them and not getting a diagnosis that's making any sense. And she's worked through the whole thing, and he's worked through the whole thing, and they're pretty legitimate for sure, as far as people and friends and hard workers. So couldn't ask for better people.
Yep, they're good folks. I don't know them real well, but every time I've been around them, it's like, you've been friends forever with them. They're just that kind of people. But if you're watching the show tonight, what I would here's the challenge I'll throw out to you, and the offer I'll make to you. If you'll go to the Bar Cart Co-op Facebook page about an hour before the show started, this show started, I posted information about, well, you'll see this photo. You'll see information about the fundraiser. And there's also a link to the GoFundMe page for Tiffany. If you'll share that on your Facebook page, share that on your social media, and then put in the comments in the chat, whether Facebook or YouTube, just put your name and a thumbs up. That way I'll know you did that. At the end of the night, I'll pick 2 people at random, and I'll send you a 375 sample of this Chico Creek, or a 375 of the sample of this Pacific Flyway. So if you'll do that and help raise awareness, and if while you're there, if you have the means to give and help contribute towards this, please do that as well. But share the Facebook post on your personal Facebook page, Facebook feed. Put in the chat that you posted it, and then at the end of the night, I'll make a list of who all did, draw out a couple of names, and then I'll get these to you. So anything you can do to help, please do so.
Yes, absolutely. And it's all greatly appreciated. And I hope to see some of the people watching there as well. I'll be there hanging out, and yeah, it'll be a good time for everybody. I guarantee it. So
very cool.
I might even be in a dunk booth. That's the last I heard, that I was stuck in the dunk booth. So
well, that might make me want to make a trip.
That's a lost opportunity right there, man. That's how much worth an airline ticket.
And if you guys
are you gonna?
I'll Duthy Woads it up in the booth.
I would say if you dress like Catherine Bach, Daisy Duke from Battle of the Network Stars in the dunk booth, I will drive all the way there.
You know, for you, buddy, I'd even get a wig. I'm just saying. Just saying.
That's awesome.
Do it. Tiff is worth it. Tiff is worth it.
Yeah. All right. So let's get back into some stuff going on with Kris and Golden Beaver. Kris, we were talking before we went on the air. You were talking about a bill change in the California House. So share with us a little bit about what's going on there and what's being done to correct it.
So one of the products we make, because we make everything out of rice, is a California style soju. And this is Bai soju. Bai is Japanese for beaver. So we're kind of blending, the concept of this very traditional Asian spirit that's both known as sochu and soju between the two cultures. And the problem is that in the state of California, if you are an importer of Korean soju, your wholesaler has the right to sell into beer and wine licensees, mainly restaurants. So the bill that originally passed, goes back into the 90s, was passed so that Korean restaurants could serve traditional Korean soju with their meals. And this is long before independent or craft distillers came along. So now there's 2 of us, maybe 3 of us in the state doing soju. Our wholesalers can't sell into restaurants. And yet we have restaurants begging for our product. And so we're luckily there's an amendment going in on this statute right now to include imported soju from Japan. And I got a hold of my assembly member and said, well, this is the most un-American thing I've ever heard of, that we write a law that allows a foreign entity to have greater rights than our own domestic producers. And they agreed. So we're reaching out to the originator of this bill to see if he's open to having this amended through his own, because he's the author of it, so they can change it without process. Otherwise, we'll have to go through process in the House, the Assembly, to try to get it changed. And hopefully there's enough, people can look at the restriction of trade issue here, that this is really not a cool thing, especially for a couple of craft distillers that are just trying to make a living.
Mhm.
It's a big market. I mean, the Bay Area and LA, I mean, it's a huge market for us, and we're being denied access to it right now. So we've reached out to American Craft Distiller Association. We're going to get some help from them on helping us draft the verbiage that we'd like to see in there, because both are not defined by TTB. We need to define it in law on what are we calling soju and what are we calling sochu, and how we're going to define that process. And so it's similar to how we define, bourbon.
Mhm.
Can't come off distill over 160 or whatever. Somewhere in there we'll come up with some way to describe it that the state can point to it. So, well, if you're doing this process, then you can sell. And it's proof down to the reason why it's going to beer and wine licensees. It's 24%. So, it's half strength whiskey, basically.
Mm-hmm.
But it's super tasty. I enjoy drinking it midweek. Put on a little fruit juice and sit down and watch a ball game and not be trashed in the morning.
Right.
Not that happens every night, but it's a good spirit. And I'm hoping. I was really had a great meeting today, and hopefully we can get this passed and this can be corrected by September.
Oh, that's actually moving pretty quick.
Yeah,
That is moving quick.
Well, we jumped on. We found out about them trying to push the bill, so we immediately went into action. And
got to be on top of it. Yeah.
Well, and like you said, it should be an easy. If I were them, it'd be an easy write-on, right? Rather than fighting anything, and it doesn't hurt them at all by adding you onto it.
No, it creates more. It
level playing field
for consumers. Creates more choices for the restaurants. It's just it's a good deal all the way around.
Kris, do you think in time that you might try to get the state to recognize a rice distillate, like the way that Indiana's recognized rye whiskey, which by the way I still think is stupid. Just throwing that out there, or Kentucky bourbon or Missouri bourbon, whatever. So
I'd love to see TTB do a defined rice whiskey.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that would be great too.
There's 5 states, right?
Mm-hmm.
6 states. There's California, Texas, Arkansas, Louisiana, Carolinas. Maybe Florida. There might be some rice grown in Florida. Mississippi. So it's 6 of them right there. So it's a growing potential.
Yeah.
And I think having it defined would be nice.
There's even the small place now in kind of central Indiana doing upland rice on a very, very, very limited scale. So, yeah.
That's great. Yeah, I'd love to taste some of that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Grab some, let me know.
Yeah, we'll get you together with them because I'm going to get them on Distillers Talk one way, shape, form, or the other. So,
good. But it's a huge market, and people don't realize how big California is. I mean, we're the 6th largest economy in the world. And when we're talking about these restaurants, it's a chunk of people. There's a lot of money to be made there. So
absolutely,
yeah.
When you're talking about rice whiskeys all over the place, we had a Laotian guy who had started a distillery and was making a rice whiskey. It's now closed since then, but that was probably like 5 years ago. And it was something I was hoping that would stick around because it had a unique flavor and stuff, and it didn't. But there are a lot of people trying that out, and from what I've had, from a lot of it, not all of it has been fantastic, but from what I've had, I've liked, and it is. You can tell it's a different grain in the mouth right away comparatively. It's just a different ride. It's fun. So
yeah, and if you're going to give somebody a rice whiskey, don't tell them what it is.
Right.
Yeah.
That's the first thing. You want them to taste it and not be off putting. If you tell them it's rice, and first thing is, it's sake. No, it's not sake.
Right.
Even sake isn't sake after you just it's like So it's just teaching them, to use their palate, use their senses, and not go in with a box.
I just had this thing pop in my head where I was like, what Kris needs is like a line of shirt. Like, ask me about Koji one more time.
No, that's a good one. Yeah, I could have that one. Ask me one more time how I make sake, right?
Yes.
You see
So-
back there? I'm not
Is
doing
this Baijiu?
Yeah, that too.
Right.
And we also had people argue, oh, that can't be soju. It's too low proof. So they're thinking Baijiu at 120. They're confused about the different spirits and the regionality of them. So
Right.
So how many allies do you have in the legislature that are, I guess, can see the benefits of this? Because let's be honest, they're going to tax the hell out of you. And
there's still taxes. I mean, they're going to get their money. I think this is a no-brainer. I don't think it matters your politics. I would say, we are majority in our legislature here is mainly Democrats. They have a super majority. So it really comes down to you're going to step on the little guy. You're going to keep us. You're going to restrict our trade in our own state. You're going to cut off markets to us that you allow foreigners to go into, with full grace of the legislature and ABC. It just stinks. It just isn't in America. So I don't think it matters which side of the coin you are. And I'm a libertarian, so it really chaps my ass. Patrick will probably agree. But I get pissed about the whole thing. It's like, this is you guys are working against me, and yet I'm making all this tax revenue for you, and you're screwing me. So I have some problems with it. But I'm hoping, there's enough of the folks on the conservative side that will look at this and go for the restriction of trade on American angle, and that enough folks on the Democrat side and liberal side will look at more as a little guy getting his nuts whacked every day.
It's a pretty common sense approach in general. Absolutely. So
yeah. So hopefully we'll all celebrate here in September, and the governor signs a bill that has a correction on it. Otherwise, we'll be calling up the lawyers.
Yep.
Because it becomes at that point a constitutional problem. So,
yeah.
So, but like one of my attorneys said, well, I said, well, this is clear restriction of trade. And she goes, the whole ABC code is restriction of trade. He goes, where are you going to dismantle it? I mean, where are you going to go first? I mean, you'd have to attack the whole thing to win the fight. So the only way to do it is through legislation, we think. All right. Back to you.
Let's talk about something fun. I mean, politics it just gets depressing anymore. It's just always. Anyway,
I will tell you my one in on this thing.
Yep.
My assembly member is a huge rice farmer, so I don't know. I might have that.
Politicians doing politician stuff. That's right. That's the way it should
there you go. Hey, I just want to know who left cocaine in the White House, and if I knew that, then I wouldn't care about the rest of it. But
we leave cocaine in our house and authorities find it. It's a whole nother story.
Right. That's right.
Oh,
where was Biden when he was there last? No, I'm just kidding.
Well, they'll hunt for it, Hunter for it. I don't
He
know.
doesn't remember.
Let's talk about the
laptop.
Pacific Flyway. Yep. Now, this is I won't tell it. You tell it. This is the first batch of this that is what?
2 years old.
2 years old.
So that makes it straight.
Yep.
And we, again, same process. We'll talk about process. We make the beaver liquor, as you were looking at earlier. And if we decide not to bottle it, we barrel it. And it goes in at the barrel about 110. And we put it in two types of barrels. We either use used bourbon barrels, and we're using Buffalo Trace, we're using Wilderness Trail, we're using some MGP barrels. And then the other half is those Char 3 ISC barrels that we're putting in new. And the reason we do that is for color and flavor. We get flavors from the used barrels. And then at the end of 2 years, we then blend them to create the whiskey. And then we blend. So in this case, this was 2 full barrels that weren't obviously our high Angel shared about 25% loss. And then we had a half a barrel that we lost half of the barrel. It had leaked. We didn't see it in the barrels. And so we blended them, and then we pumped them back into 2 freshly dumped MGP barrels, the bourbon that we're using to make our honey run blend. And we sat them in the corner, let them rest for another 30, 45 days, and then we bottled it. And so this is what created this blend.
Very nice.
So we think obviously when we do it when it's 3 years old, it's going to be better. And when we do 4 years old, it's be better. But this is where we're at right now, and it's a 2-year-old. And, we got about 60 barrels in the back, so we're not going to run out of the stuff anytime soon. We're not going to go through it quickly. So,
well, it's beautiful at 2 years old. So for me on the nose, there's 3 things that stick out to me on the nose. And one of them I'm only picking up because I know that rice is the ingredient, right? The other 2 things are, so one is steamed rice. And I mean like direct transition steamed rice sort of characteristic in the same way that oats go through direct transition and distillation, which I really love. Secondarily, though, and more importantly, I think there's a lot of butterscotch on that, and there's a lot of clover honey on it. A ton of clover honey on that, just on the nose. It's honestly, there's almost a gustatory response when I smell it. I think of honey sweetened rice is what I'm thinking of when I smell it.
I can see all that.
Mm-hmm.
So Patrick, what do you think?
I was muted for a second. Sorry about that. There was a little chaos argument before bedtime going on in the background there for a minute. What type of rice was it that you guys were using? I don't know if we mentioned that before. I'll make sure people.
This is Cal Rose. So this is our mid-grain rice that we're world famous for. Most of the rice gets exported to Asia and not consumed here in the U.S. In fact, back in the 70s, there was a black market for it in China and in Korea. So it's very sought after. The fact that we're making whiskey from Cal Rose rice is probably considered a sin by a great amount.
So good though. So
I just want to brought up because I know that I have some friends that are like, he's doing what? And they got I'm like, taste it.
I'm gonna call this real quick too, even before I give the tasting notes on my end, and before Mike and Rose and Kevin give their noses on it. All you assholes that are chasing American light whiskey, this is so much fucking better than American light whiskey. I don't know what's wrong with you. Just because it's old and MGP doesn't make it great, guys.
Thank you for that. Appreciate that comment.
A lot of other people didn't, so you're welcome.
Light whiskey can suck it. I think that's what we're talking about tonight. If I remember correctly, Kris, there's a pear note that you're trying to get when you're distilling this. Am I remember that correctly?
The pear, when we smell the pear coming off the still, we're getting into the hearts.
Yeah,
and it's there every time. I mean, it's like we teach our assistant distillers how to smell it. You know, make sure they recognize it. They may not see it as a pear. They may see it as an almond, but it's a note that comes across, and that's when we're going right into the ethanol.
Yeah.
So.
And that note's still there. I don't think it's as prominent as it is on the younger, but that note is still there. I get a little cocoa on the nose too, like a little cocoa powder,
light cocoa powder and butterscotch. But I'm surprised for me, even though I'm getting more of that on the tail end of the nose. Right off the bat, how it's brighter and a little more effort. I might confuse it with the wine if I wasn't paying attention. It's bright. It's got some light character kind of coming out, and then it kind of changes to some of those notes like you're talking about with the honey and
see that like the
Right.
almost so now that Kevin mentioned the pear thing and you mentioned the almond, so almond for me comes through on that a little bit now going back to it, but I could also see, Patrick, like a little bit of like minerality at play with that almond or that pear characteristic. I think
That's it. It's like light and a little bit of effervescence, playful on it, and then it kind of changes towards midway in the back end of mine. Maybe I'm too far in the glass as I'm nosing it. But.
Mike, what do you think, buddy?
So the problem that I have is these are crap. These are crap for nosing. Okay.
Get in there.
But they're so fat that you don't realize how much you're pouring. So this is where I'm at this point on this one.
Holy cow, dude!
Wow.
So obviously you don't like it, Mike. You can just be blunt. Just tell me you don't like it.
So here's when all the notes that were coming out, and this is honestly so my oldest daughter, she likes to make all these different gourmet pizzas, and one of the ones that she does is she'll thinly slice pears and then she'll drizzle them with honey and then cook that on the pizza crust. So I get the pear with honey on there, but I'm not trying to find the fat boy note, but the note that I was trying to get because of the little bit of butterscotch and honey that I was getting on just on the palate, it reminded me not of a bit of honey, but if you like smelled the wrapper from a bit of honey.
Yeah, kind of I understand what you're saying there. I think so. Kind of you get it in Scotch sometimes, kind of like it's almost a waxiness sort of characteristic that comes across. Yeah. That makes sense. Like kind of like a little in Scotch. I could see that. And there's actually probably some. It'd be cool sometime. We'll all have to get find a bottle of Glengoyne Lowland Scotch and compare it to this, because Glengoyne's got that apple note to it and that waxiness. That would be a cool one-on-one comparison.
Plus, they're also highly underrated.
I'll test it tonight.
Yeah,
I've never tried to do a side-by-side comparison. I'll check it out.
I'm intrigued because Glengoyne for me is one of the underrated distilleries in Scotch. When everyone starts mentioning big names, that always slides under the radar. I'm like, have you had the 18 or 21?
Yeah.
It's pretty heaven.
Yeah.
Even the 10's not bad for the price range.
Yeah.
Yeah. And one other thing about this, I hold it in the palate, man, is it oily.
Yes.
And to go back like what Alan said about the light whiskey stuff. I mean, I get why people like it, but this would be a huge alternative for everybody who is going after that and trying to get it. And I get it too, because some of them I've had are really good. I mean, you're just like really nice vanilla bomb and very flavorful, but you just get that vanilla sweetness on there. This blows all that away. If you're trying to compare it to a light whiskey, it just completely blows it away.
Yeah, I agree.
I just love the mouthfeel off this. And when we talk about on our show about having a lineup, like you said, start with the rye, but the earthiness and that it's just a different. The comparison between the two we had tonight and the tasting, they're both uniquely different.
Yeah.
And
yes,
neither one like overpowering, but each of them rich and bold with flavors. Because even on the flyway here, it's been a minute or two. I'm still going through tasting notes on my tongue. And if you want me to rattle some off, I can do that. And lately, I'd say it's probably like 10, maybe 20 seconds, and then everything starts to bland out or fade away. And so it has a really long hold. I'm intrigued to try some other rice whiskey, see if that might be part of it, or if it's just this in particular style, because I remember you can tell the flavor difference. It sounds weird, but it's unique. So
I'll tell you, it's and Alan's backed me up here. It's the reason why we use pot stills. We're capturing that oil. I mean, we look for it. I mean, you get that little shimmer on top of your distillate as it's coming out, and you're going, that's a good run.
It's not a bad thing. No filtration need apply other than for barrel char sometimes.
Yeah. But it's, that's what's giving these rich mouthfeels to that pot still behind us. Specifically, the one I was lucky enough to buy from Jim over at Liberty Pool, old Harold back there. Harold's a great finishing still.
And those guys are good people too.
So
Yeah.
where is this one available?
This one's all through California as well. So
Okay.
you gotta come to California, man.
Got it.
Now you have some product that's available on seal box, right?
We did. I haven't heard from Blaine in a while. Of course, we were new to the game, so maybe Blaine needs another review of what we're doing now because it's changed quite a bit.
Yep.
And, if everybody here gives Blaine a call tomorrow morning and starts bitching, maybe that'd help.
I'll call Blake tomorrow.
Yeah.
I'll call him tonight.
Middle of the night. What are you doing, Blake?
What are you doing? When you gonna put in an order with both Golden Beaver and Spirits of French Lick? What's going on, buddy?
That's it.
Come on, Blake. We need some
We'll
beaver.
give you a 10% discount if you buy both at the same time, right?
I mean, if I owned anything, sure.
Now, we've talked about the rice as the ingredient here. What do you see as? I mean, this is, you're not alone in making rice whiskey, but you're one of the few, the proud, the head beaver distiller. What's the future for rice in the whiskey business?
I think it's just starting. I think, everyone's chasing the bourbon kick. I mean, we have a bourbon coming out that has rice in it. Basically it's our version of what we originally got from MGP, which was a 4-grain bourbon that had rice in it. We tweaked the mash bill a bit, a little heavier on the rice than they went. We were using the Cal Rose. But for most of the market, people are going to be looking for something that's different. And if everyone's making bourbon, everybody's making rye, or everyone's making single malt, there's no market differentiation for your product. There's no reason for someone to go in a store and see all 12 versions of the same thing and buy you because of the way your label looks. I mean,
Right.
You got to stand on flavor. You got to stand on uniqueness. And I understand, Melick is out there right now with their rice whiskey, a different type of grain of rice. And, it's a bit of an uphill battle. I mean, I've had people straight out tell me, don't mention it's rice ever. You're hurting yourself if you say it's rice. And first of all, that's like saying, don't tell them it's a redhead. Nobody likes redheads. They only like brunettes and blondes. So, don't tell them your girlfriend's a redhead. I mean, no, rice is what it is. And we're proud that we're making it with rice.
That's terrible marketing advice. Don't tell people what makes you singularly different than most people around. Don't tell people that.
Well,
I'm sorry.
Yeah, it was given in with good charity. I mean, the guy, I appreciate and respect what he's saying.
I get it. I just mean
because there is xenophobia out there with distillers. We had a major blender today from a major distillery that's kind of hot right now. Trash on this spirit tonight because it was too earthy. And
you're
then I
gonna
said,
have to let me know who that is off the air for sure.
I said, well, my question is, what order did you taste this in? And she started the tasting with our honey run. Well, shit, anything after a honey run is going to taste like shit. I mean, even if
I'm laughing at Kevin for a reason.
Honey run is such a floral, honey bomb that why would you taste it in that order? And I respect the person, but it was, it's like, well, once you go back and taste it again tomorrow, maybe a little differently in a different sequence, you should start with the rye like we did tonight because it's a little more herbal, a little heavier. And then this is lighter, sweeter, and, progress your palate.
One thing that we should do, if you'd be up for it, Kris, Kevin, I think we could make this introduction too, is introduce Kris to the American Mash and Grain guys, and maybe get
Absolutely.
them into blends that they do, because there'd be a lot of cool stuff they could do with this as a component and help get the word out. So
That's a great idea.
We'll toss a barrel at anything. You know, they can come. They'll have to come and tell me if they want to use bourbon or if they want a new barrel. Or, you know,
they'll geek out with you over all this stuff just like we do. So,
Yeah.
I have a geeky question. I am going to ask you though, because I have to. So, you know, when you were on Distillers Talk before, we talked about different varieties of rice and stuff, and not so much that, but I am curious, and this is just me as a distiller wondering what would happen. What would happen if you made one of these or made a batch of it with a little bit of toasted rice? That's something I'm really curious about.
Well, we do.
Yeah. Okay. Good deal.
Hold that thought a second there, sir. I'll be right
All
back.
right.
You guys
Awesome.
chat amongst yourselves. I'll be right back.
Yeah, okay.
I totally hope that distiller's who I think it is, Kevin. I hope it is. I hope it
Oh, I
is.
hope it is too. It just would cement things anyway.
And to make an order decision like that would be unique. So
Yeah.
all that
Hey,
experience.
while we're waiting on Kris to come back, don't forget to share that post on Facebook and drop in the comments that you did it, so I can send you some whiskey, because this stuff's really, really good and you don't want to miss out. You know, the Kris was talking about, he wants to be open and transparent about the use of the rice, and that only makes sense. But I would also say anytime that you can work this into a blind tasting,
Hell yeah.
do it, because people will not understand what they're drinking.
This is the rice malt.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Okay, so unlike regular malt, let's say barley malt, there's no diastatic power in rice malt. So the toasting, the roasting of the husk gives us the flavor notes in our whiskey. And
Nice.
then
That is really cool.
this is the broken rice from the mill. So the rice that we're using is actually mill waste. So usually used for dog food and crackers. So we're cutting into that food stream.
Not to completely interrupt, but this is how you know you're a redneck, is when your wife brings the beans that you picked out of the garden in on a live stream so you can try them.
Oh, awesome.
So just saying. Also fat.
You got them buttered up, salt and pepper.
Actually goes really well with the damn rice whiskey. It's fantastic. I need some country fried steak so I can sweat some more tomorrow. It's wonderful.
Man. That does line up well.
So, Kris, what else is going on with Golden Beaver? I know you've got a new tasting room and Park Avenue Stillhouse. Is that right?
It's the Park Avenue Stillhouse. We have a major road just adjacent to us here that went under construction 2 years ago, and it was funded by the feds to improve our airport and hopefully get a bigger airline in here. And that's all great. I love it. Cost us about $160,000 in lost revenue from people not wanting to drive up here and enjoy our tasting room here on site, because you would have to drive up against a cement rail on the way home. And of course, you've had a couple of drinks. It's night. It's not a good experience. So we had, out of necessity, we had to jump and build a second tasting room. And so we opened up the tasting room in November. And it's a full craft cocktail bar because we do, we have a food service on site. Right now we have a family called Old Time Barbecue. It's a father and two sons, and they make killer tacos. They make Hawaiian chicken, they do tri-tip, they do ribs, they do all that type of stuff. Super good. And then we have very talented bartenders mixologists that make great drinks with our spirits. And we have things like because we got the Tennessee Thumper, we have habanero and mango moonshine for your Bloody Marys, and we have jalapeno and pineapple for your Bloody Marys, and we make beaveritos with our beaver liquor, and do a little bit of everything. And I would just suggest, if you have some left, is go make an old fashioned with the Pacific Flyway.
I can handle that.
And go really easy on your simple syrup. I think you guys will find it makes a very nice, pleasant old fashioned.
Very cool.
But so that's going well. The Tennessee Thumper's got to get jacked up here. I got a bunch of due list things I got to get for the bar. But in the state of California, even though my federal permit covers both, the state of California required me to have a separate craft distiller's license for that location. So
Really?
What the?
Yeah.
Where you're not distilling there, are you though?
I'm distilling there. Yeah, we do distill.
Okay. I didn't know if you're doing it at both.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah. The little room behind the bar.
Yeah.
There's a window.
Yeah.
Well, what's in that room is what's in what used to be here at the main distillery is that
Okay.
Tennessee Thumper. So you see it hanging there with the jars, and so that's in there. And we've added a 16-gallon thumper coming off the main pot, which slows it down a little bit.
That's
And then
a very cool piece of equipment. And there's not a ton of those out there. And you brought some, not that Rick didn't have some legitimacy, but you brought Rick some legitimacy by putting that thing on display. So
yeah,
for sure.
Rick needs the help he can get, man. You know what I'm saying?
I mean,
sure.
you know, technically that's a Tennessee Beaver still, considering, you know, Rick's the one that initially put it together, and then you had to go back and fix it for him. So
yeah, we did some rework to make it flow a little bit better, a little faster.
Yeah. Rick's going to be calling me here in a minute.
Rick does killer work, and we really appreciate it. And and what's great about Rick, you just he'll show up, and work all day as long as you're feeding him watermelon Red Bulls. So he's a good guy. So
Watermelon Red Bull. I'm going to remember that.
yeah. If you want to get on his good side, send him a case.
I better already be on his good side. I hope I am. I don't know. He hasn't complained at me for a while, so.
I remember there were a couple of shows in a row that we had you on, Kris, where I think people were making calls to Rick during the show, waiting for that piece of equipment to show up.
Yeah. There was a little bit of a delay there. There was, but you never know what's going to happen.
Quality takes time. Quality takes time.
I think Kevin, you put the number across the bottom like a Jerry Lewis telephone.
Oh man,
There's free samples if you call this number.
Yeah. All right. Any final thoughts on the rye or the Pacific Flyway rice whiskey?
Yeah, I got one more little thing. We're really blasting out with the honey run and distribution here in California.
Yep.
So there's some major wholesalers, some major warehouse types that carry it now. They want to break any ABC laws here by mentioning who. But you probably have a membership to them. And so that's going out. Our gin's doing great. We do a rice-based gin. And super tasty. We do Sierra Nevada came out with an infused sparkling water, hopped infused sparkling water, and you use that instead of tonic with a little bit of lime. It is the best summer drink, and you're only at 80 calories because you don't have the tonic in it. So
Very cool.
super tasty.
Those 2 beans I just had more than 80 calories in them.
Yeah. But everything else, we're just kind of swinging at the bat, man.
Yeah.
You're doing awesome. You're doing a great job, dude. It's good stuff.
Really cool stuff. Very happy for you and your wife and all the success that you're enjoying. And sounds like there's really good things ahead, especially if you start putting down a few barrels of rye every year.
Well, we will. We're planning on a major expansion. We're at that point. We either gotta grow or die. So we want to start producing a little heavier. Very, very similar to Liberty Pole, where you got to get your numbers up.
Yeah.
Business. We're just not there yet.
Yeah, man. I think that you and throw this out real quick. You and Liberty Pole both of those businesses can easily be a 15 or 20 state business if you can get there and keep up with it. You guys would have no problem with that. I think there's 15 or 20 states that would love everything that both of you guys are doing in general. So,
yeah, we're hoping, betting big, going long.
Got it.
And then if you ever do want to give up, your Indiana lifestyle, you just call me. We'll get you out here, man.
I'll let you know.
Have you ever seen the Beverly Hillbillies?
You're about to.
We have our own hillbillies out here. I put them up against any hillbilly back there.
If it's going to be true Beverly Hillbillies, I got to take Justin with me though, because I got to have a Jethro. So.
Yes. Oh man.
Let's do a wilderness trail out here. You guys can come work.
Yes.
That's fair.
Pat will let me live in his mini mansion.
Yeah, that's fair. You got to get through the doors though; they're kind of shorter.
Doors, yes.
Like hobbit doors.
Also shaped like a yeast cell.
Yeah, I'm not that.
That's 2 phone calls I'm getting tonight.
Yep. Well, Kris, anything we can do to help, all you got to do is say the word, and we'll do whatever we can to promote you and what you're doing. And I love the fact that you're bold enough to take a unique approach to what you're doing, and I'm just thankful to see that you guys are growing and experiences the success that you are, and just looking forward to great things in the future.
I appreciate it. We appreciate your support. Your notes are always great, always welcome, good or bad. It helps stay on track. So I appreciate all the support from all 4 of you guys. It's been well received and always welcome.
Awesome.
Well, Kris, tell everybody where they can find you on social media and where they can keep up with everything going on at Golden Beaver.
Just type in Golden Beaver on Instagram or Facebook, and you'll find us. Our Facebook is Golden, or our webpage is goldenbeaverdistillery.com, and you can find us there. And then if you want to send me a personal thing, just look for my name, Kris Koenig, on Facebook, and you'll find me. So.
If you type in Golden Beaver on eHarmony, what?
You get a bunch of 55-year-old blonde women. That's
okay. Wait, what was that again?
You gotta do it. You gotta do it right. It's Pornhub. You gotta go to Pornhub.
Alan, you're gonna meet my wife one day. And I'm telling you. No, just kidding. I'm sure already. Go easy, man. Go easy.
Right?
Yeah. Gee whiz. Something OnlyFans. I don't know. Pat, where can folks find you on social, and what else you have going on?
You can go right to YouTube or Facebook, where we typically have our live shows every Monday night. Mike's going to be ducking out on a couple of them in July, but that's okay. We'll be filling them up. Everyone gets busy. I ducked out on one last week. And then we'll be doing stuff. There might be another tasting coming up. I got to talk to you guys about something for a fall event, maybe even a bar cart co-op one. Could be a live one. So But yeah, I was gonna check us out Monday night. We'll have some stuff going on. There's about 8 or 10 things all in the motion right now. Mike's gonna be getting some of the cantaloupe cream liqueur that he's been waiting for. I'm in trouble for not getting that to him yet, and a couple other samples. So, and if you guys haven't had that, I might have to send you guys, split a little bottle between you guys if you guys haven't had that.
Everybody should have it.
Kris, I don't think you have. Have you had
No.
cantaloupe? Okay, and bald guy.
Bald
Sorry,
guy.
that's just the name.
It 100% resets your palate. We put it to the test to see what it would kill. It killed Malort.
I remember watching you guys do that
Yeah.
vaguely while I was drinking one night. Yes.
It absolutely kills and resets everything. It's
Yeah.
amazing.
It's a weird thing.
Yeah.
But that and a couple other things coming up for shows. I got to get out to people first. But I don't know, just having some summer fun. It's okay to be a little relaxed every now and then.
Mhm.
So, but
All right, Mike, how about you, bud?
Everything Pat said. Monday nights, my whiskey den, 8 p.m. Central Time. Usually a live show on Monday nights.
Okay. And Mr. Alan Bishop.
SpiritsofFrenchlick.com, thealchemistcabinet.com, all the stuff I said at the beginning of the show, and then also an update because 3 of you were part of it. Bo Cumberland is working on a director's cut of the Alan Bishop Experience and apparently is talking to some sort of distribution company. So there's that.
they wanted to be involved afterwards. You're not expanding my role, right?
Potentially, yes. Like you're probably actually, they're going to replace me completely and you're going to play me and my.
I'll have to get lifts in my shoes.
It's just a better option, honestly. It's just a better option all around.
I'm free more.
It's time for the understudy. So you can follow Bar Cart Co-op on the Facebook page, subscribe to the YouTube channel. We do these at least once a quarter. This year we'll probably work in 5 or 6 instead of just 4. We've got some really cool things coming up. We've got a show that we want to do on absinthe. We've got a show that we want to do and do a tasting with pairing breakfast cereal with different whiskeys. So we got some fun stuff that we're working up here. I think it'll be a good time. So follow along with that. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel for Bourbon Turntable as well. You can go back and find a show where we had Kris on and Pat, Mike, Alan are all on from time to time as well. So we're just having a good time here, trying to promote really, really good whiskey and the good people that are making it. So with all that being said, thanks everybody that were joined us tonight in the chat. We want to show you that we really appreciate you. And again, please share this for Tiffany and help out any way you can. We'll be posting more about that in the future. So on behalf of Pat and Mike and Alan and our wonderful guest, Kris, thanks everybody for tuning in and cheers.
SpongeBob.
I don't know if we can end with Freebird.